Hello everyone and welcome to Hats Off. I'm your host and secret reflection, the Angelo Edwards. It's time to talk about a show that, while new, has quickly become one of my favorite things of all time. And what better than now when I seem to have a captive audience? Usually I have to resort to... Well, I'm glad you guys are here. As you guys should know by now, I'm a big fan of animation. I love it to pieces. Love talking about it. Love obsessing over it. Doesn't matter where it's from, if it's moving pictures, I want in. But I do have a certain affinity for particular styles. See, I'm what you might call an anime fan. So when I heard of an anime coming out that not only celebrated the process of making anime, but animation as a whole, I knew something special was about to come out. So gather around, but not too close, and we'll take our hats off to Keep Your Hands Off of Eizouken. Eizouken started off like a lot of animes do, as a manga. Created by Sumito Owara, Eizouken tells the story of three high schoolers. Asuka, a girl obsessed with world building and fleshing out concepts. Mizuzaki, a young model with an eye for character movement that dreams of being an animator. And Kanamori, a realist that finds any activity worth doing as long as it pays. These three girls come together to form the Eizouken Club, a club dedicated to creating anime. From the bat, I was in love with the concept. I'm more so an illustrator than an animator at the moment, but any show that can shine a light into the production of my favorite types of media are my favorite. Manga like Bakuman, which I've talked about, and anime like Shirobako are also great examples of it. But how Eizouken stands out is that, while in these shows, the main characters eventually enter the professional world, Eizouken takes place entirely during the girls' high school's life. Which means that the stuff they produce is kept at a high school level. A very impressive high school level, but a high school level nonetheless. What I find the most interesting is that whenever we see a piece of animation done by the girls, it's believably imperfect. Certain pieces of animation are reused, some shots look lower quality than others, perspective looks kinda wonky in some areas, and it's not because the people making the show are unskilled, it's because the girls making the projects are new to it. And it's super important that it shows. You don't just decide you want to animate and then start farting out Disney. You make mistakes, you learn, you grow. And in Eizouken, you really get a good look at the progress of these three girls. And speaking of these girls, let's move on to the characters of Eizouken, shall we? Well, too bad, we're gonna. The main characters of Eizouken represent different parts of the creative process, especially in the more professional side of animation. Asuka is the passion that animators have. She wants to create things that people have never seen before, but have a definite structure. The things she makes don't just work because everything she draws has a science behind it. Most of it based on her own knowledge of technology. And the way she makes new things and the excitement she shows is infectious. She plays pretend, she makes up scenarios in her head, she's always spazzing out over something, and I love her and I cherish her, and if you do anything to hurt her, I will end you. I wasn't gonna do anything. Maybe. But why take that chance? Bottom line, Asuka makes life worth living. Moving on to the next character, we have Mizuzaki. Mizuzaki is the curiosity that animators have. She has a huge passion for character design and figuring out how those characters move. A lot of this passion came from her analyzing her dancing class as a child and spending time with her grandma and finding the movements she would do fascinating. This love of animation eventually led to her finding out ways for her grandma to move better, and that was what really sealed it. She knew she wanted to be an animator. The thing I love about her is her undying love of quality. She doesn't want to make anything half-baked. And unlike me, she actually has the willpower to make sure that she always does her best. She buys props, she practices all the movements herself, she does recut after recut, and never once does she complain. If anything, she relishes the challenge. The only problem with her is her upbringing. She comes from a rich family and she is expected to become an actress or a model. It's not that her family outright forbids her from animating, but it's more so that they don't find it a viable career choice. A lot of kids had their dreams crushed at an early age, by parents, friends, nosy teachers that I wasn't even talking to. No one asked you, Miss Vernon? Maybe if you didn't spend so much time eavesdropping, your husband wouldn't be showing your aide how to use a yardstick. But back on track. Mizuzaki doesn't let this deter her, and her love for animating shines the brightest out of the whole cast. Last, but certainly not least, we have Kanamori. She is the character that represents the business side of animation. She's the no-nonsense producer that makes sure everything gets done on time and that there's enough money to do it. She respects the talents of Asuka and Mizuzaki, but she also keeps them in line. Animation is strict. Sometimes you just have to get things done, and if you can get them done quicker and cheaper without sacrificing too much quality, then sometimes that's how it has to be done. While sometimes coming off as thuggish or rude, Kanamori is simply trying to figure out how to balance the needs of the artists and the consumers. She doesn't want to step on her friends' toes and crush their motivation, but at the same time, if she doesn't crack the whip, their projects will end late. A lot of people see producers as people who simply don't get art, but that's not really true. A good producer isn't someone who doesn't get art, it's someone who gets business. And that's why Kanamori is great at her job. She gets business done, and done to the best of all of their abilities. Now there are a few other characters like the sound editor Domeki, who I love, and some other members of other clubs, and they all get their moment to shine in the anime. Not just with animation, but with a lot of other things that are people's passion. Which brings me to the last thing I want to talk about with this anime. The presentation. Everything from the setting to the way it's animated serves to elevate this show. There are a lot of subtle things that serve to flesh out the world quite nicely. Like, some people will notice that although it takes place in Japan, it's actually set in the near future, about 30 years from now. So technology has advanced a bit, but not so much so that it's not believable. Also, you'll notice there's a lot more diversity than you would expect to see. But with it taking place in the new future, it isn't crazy to assume that a lot more migration has been taking place. It's super cool to see stuff like this tackled in anime, especially when it's not even the focus. A lot of care was put into the way the character and the worlds look. Also, when it comes to the animation of the three main girls, the studio took great care to animate them without making their movements seem girly. The author requested that their motions be kept gender neutral, because although the main characters are high school girls, it could easily be a story about anyone. It's really cool seeing anime girls that aren't just well, anime girls. Like, these are girls I actually could have hung out with in high school. It's crazy. But it's not just the animation on the characters that make this show unique. Whenever the girls are thinking about their next piece, the style switches to this messy style that's similar to the way Asuka draws in her sketchbook. And to top it off, all the sound effects that play during these scenes are just sounds made by the voice actors. It has such a fun and playful feeling that I couldn't stop smiling. And that's how I felt the whole time watching this anime. So much anime gets made every season that a lot of it just seems to run together. But this show is special. I normally try to be fair and list some negatives along with the positives, but with this show, I can't find any. That doesn't mean there aren't any, but this show resonated with me so hard I honestly can't point out any faults. This show feels grand, it feels big, cinematic at times, cozy at others, and just downright fun. This is a fun show with a fun premise and fun characters, and I truly believe that it's an instant classic. Anime really needed something like this, and it's because of shows like this that I keep watching. Animation is amazing, and this show isn't afraid to shout that from the heavens. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go catch up on some long due animating. In a minute, don't judge.